Hello and welcome in, Browns fans, to another X's and Dogs podcast. This is the start of Week 14 in the NFL season, and this is a very, very important week of not only NFL football, but I think overall just football in general for the Cleveland Browns and really their future plans and how they will attack the 2026 season, particularly with the quarterback position, and I want to talk about that to start things in today's podcast. So let's get right into it. You know, this week, starting with the Browns, Cleveland plays the Tennessee Titans, and I'll get more into the specifics of that matchup later on in today's podcast, but I want to start by talking about the fact that this is a fantastic opportunity, excuse me, and maybe Shedeur Sanders' last opportunity, not last opportunity, but best opportunity in general, to prove that he deserves to get maybe a more extended look as the quarterback of this team, you know, facing off against a very challenged Tennessee Titans football team and not a good defense at home in a game where the Browns are going to be favored, should win, probably will win. I think this is a great opportunity for Shedeur to have, you know, a standout performance, throw maybe a handful of touchdowns and hopefully like upwards of 250 yards, just look really efficient in the offense, look like he's growing in this offense. I think it's a must seize the moment type of opportunity for number 12 on the Browns. Excuse me, and to go even deeper with this idea of it being a very important week for the Browns, we have in college football the conference championship games taking place this weekend, and none bigger than the Big Ten conference championship game going on in Indianapolis this Saturday. I believe it's at 8 p.m., where Indiana is facing off against the Ohio State Buckeyes. And this is going to be a huge game that the whole football world will probably be watching. I think it's the best game of the weekend. There's some other good ones for sure, but this one is fascinating to me. We have two undefeated teams going at it. And you probably are wondering, you know, what does this have to do with the Browns? Well, it's simple. The fact that Indiana has the potential Heisman winner, actually both of these teams have the co-favorites to be the Heisman winner. And I think if you are a Browns fan, you might be a little bit conflicted in this one. In that maybe you're also an Ohio State fan. Now, if you're not an Ohio State fan like myself, you know, I just really want to see Fernando Mendoza play really well in this game and separate himself as the best quarterback in this draft class. So that's what I mean by saying that this is a very important game. You know, not only for Shedeur to separate himself on the actual Browns themselves, but also Fernando Mendoza to solidify himself as the best top prospect at that quarterback position in the 2026 NFL draft. And I think, you know, with a win this weekend in a Big Ten Conference Championship, Fernando Mendoza all but locks up the Heisman and probably, apart from like an injury or a complete collapse in a playoff game, you know, locks up that number one overall pick that, you know, more than likely will probably belong to the Titans, and a team will have to trade up to go up there and pick Fernando. So just overall looking at this weekend, those two situations going on, I think, are very, very important for the Cleveland Browns and kind of hold a lot of weight for a team who desperately wants to get the quarterback position figured out, by the end of the 2026 season at the latest. So, yeah, I'm excited to watch for sure all the college football games going on Friday and Saturday. And then, I think the Browns have a really good chance to win this one on Sunday. And it'll be interesting to see how Shedeur can perform in a game where the Browns are going to be favorites. Because keep in mind, this is the first time the Browns are going to be favorites in a game that Shedeur is starting as the quarterback for the football team. The Raiders game, they entered that one as, I believe, 3-point underdogs. Obviously, home underdogs against the 49ers. And then this week we have the 1-10, I believe now, Tennessee Titans coming to town. And, of course, we're favored. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. And I really do believe that Shedeur has to perform far and away better than he has in the first 2 games that he's played, or else things are going to start to get late really quickly for Shedeur with only 4 games remaining after that. When it comes to the potential ability to stop the Browns from drafting that quarterback in the 2026 draft, and instead pursue the route of, Shedeur being the potential answer there. So a fascinating week for if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, finding a silver lining of things to watch at this time of the year, whenever the team we all root for is 3-9 and pretty much eliminated from the playoffs in all realistic, scenarios. So yeah, it just adds a little bit of extra motivation to watch football if you're running out of that motivation as the Browns are in the position that they're in. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll talk about these situations, in next week's pods for sure. We also have guys like Dante Moore, who's not participating in a Big Ten championship game, but will be in a playoff game the week after. And same thing with, we also will actually get to watch Ty Simpson, in the SEC game as well, which, let me look up what time that one's on. I believe it's on earlier on Saturday, so let's see. Yeah, so Alabama and Georgia play at 4 p.m. on Saturday, so it's going to be a really, honestly, throw that onto the mix as well, If Ty Simpson can look really good against Georgia, I think that plays a very important role in his potential draft stock too, and winning the SEC additionally would be huge for him as well. So just some really big college football, games going on this weekend when you're looking at it from the lens of the 2026 NFL draft, particularly in the quarterback position. So it'll be fascinating to watch these games. And like I said, we'll get to learn a lot leading into the college football playoff as well the week after. All that said, there was some Browns news, more than the hypothetical situations in the games going on this weekend. Particularly this one, not so exciting for, I think, a lot of Browns fans, but it is rather interesting and to me caught me a little bit off guard. It does have to do with Deshaun Watson. We do activate his 21-day practice window tonight or today, earlier today at the time of recording this video on December 3rd. So yeah, Deshaun went straight away and returned to actual practice today. There was some clips of him throwing around with the team earlier today, which was not what I expected to see as I woke up on this wonderful Wednesday morning. But as you're a Browns fan, you begin to kind of become numb to these surprises, and after I think last week, we got past last week of not getting Deshaun activated to, to rejoin practice and open his practice window. I thought we were kind of in the clear with that situation. I thought he would just push it back to next year and kind of give up on this season, as best case scenario, he returns and is able to be active for 2 games at this point. So I kind of just thought that it wasn't going to happen, but of course, here we are. And next thing you know, Deshaun is thrown around in Berea, Ohio, with the rest of the Cleveland Browns and trying to ramp up to join the team in what will be, I believe, week 16 or 17 to join the active roster. So for me, it's as simple as the fact that the Browns cannot allow Deshaun and should not allow. There's no reason for him to play quarterback for this football team this season. And it has nothing to do with his ability to play better than the other quarterbacks that we have on the team. In a nutshell, if I was tasked with telling you guys who I believed actually gave the team best chance to win between Deshaun, Shador, and Dylan Gabriel in next week's game, I would probably in all reality have to say Deshaun Watson. But as I said, that is completely meaningless to the decision that the Browns should make as it pertains to Deshaun Watson touching the field, in front of all of the Cleveland Browns fans on any given Sunday for the remainder of this season. The reason for this being, I think the Browns have clearly shifted to find out what you have in young talent evaluation mode. I think that's where this football team is at this season, and they should be completely content with that. They should not be disappointed in that at this moment. The season went the way it did. This team's not going to the playoffs. They can be disappointed in not going and not performing better. But at this point in time, they need to accept the reality that they are in talent evaluation mode all across the board. And that starts with the quarterback position, which is clearly the most, evident question mark for this football team, going forward. Now, all that said, is there a possibility that Deshaun Watson does indeed play a game for the Browns this season? And I think the answer to that is obviously yes. There's a chance of that. This is the Browns we're talking about. They do things that other teams can't even think to do. So we truly never know, what could happen with this football team, especially whenever you get too late in the season when things tend to get pretty meaningless here in Cleveland, Ohio. So we'll really just have to wait and see with this one. I really am hoping that we don't have to see him on the field. We don't have to watch him play a football game this season. We can forget about Deshaun Watson this offseason. Hopefully have the ability to, cut him and just take the cap hit and move on with the whole situation. Forget about what turned in to be the worst trade in NFL history. And just move on as a fan base, as an organization, as a football team. That's what is in the best interest for everybody involved in this one. And, the least amount of football we get to watch this guy play, in the coming remainder of the season and into next season, the better for everybody. So let's just all hope that things can play out the way we all think they should for the rest of the season. And to me, that simply is allowing Shedeur to play the rest of the games and figure out what he has to the best that you can in 5 more NFL games. That's all I really have to say about that situation. Hopefully, it doesn't become a big story that we need to talk about more in the remainder of the season. Let's just hope as Browns fans. Now I want to move into another topic that has popped up throughout this week. And to me, this is one of the more simple and obvious kind of hypothetical situation, hypothetical question that you could think of for the Browns. And it has to do with 2 other AFC North head coaches, John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin. So I want to just start by telling you guys a couple quick stats about these coaches. So Mike Tomlin, at his time in Pittsburgh, is 183 and 107. He has won 8 playoff games, albeit he has lost 11 playoff games. That's 19 playoff appearances total. He has won a Super Bowl, of course. And he's also made it to another Super Bowl. So that's clear that, Mike Tomlin has been a very successful coach in the NFL, and ultimately is regarded as one of the better coaches since honestly all of the 2000s, in my opinion. So let's move on to John Harbaugh and kind of his statistics. So let me pull up John Harbaugh's all-time record. So John Harbaugh is a similar 178 and 110 with 13 wins and 11 losses in the playoffs. And here's the deal. Both of these guys do have the potential this offseason to be released from their duties coaching the Steelers and the Ravens, respectively. And I think the Browns fans have actually lost their mind a little bit. And I'm not talking about all Browns fans. I'm talking about the portion of the fan base that is arguing that hiring John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin would be a bad idea for the Cleveland Browns in the 2026 season. I want to ask these fans that are declining the opportunity to hire 2 of the best coaches we've seen in the NFL over the past 25 years. I want to ask them, what franchise do you think you're a fan of? Like, do we think we're the Patriots? Do we think we're the Eagles? I mean, we are a fan of a football team who has 4 winning seasons since 1999. Since they returned to Cleveland in 1999. 4 winning seasons. Mike Tomlin has not had one single season under 500. And, I understand what your next point is going to be. Oh, but he hasn't won a playoff game in 10 years or whatever the stat is. As a Browns fan and as fans of this team, we do not have the luxury to complain about anybody, not winning playoff games. In my whole entire life, I've seen 2 playoff games for this team, and there's people who are older than me that have in their whole life, have also only seen 2 playoff games by this football team, and have also seen 0 AFC title, seasons. I've never seen the Browns win an AFC North. They haven't done that since the 80s, I believe. So, look, here's my point. To say that the Browns would not immediately be in a better position next year by hiring one of these two guys, and I don't even want to get ahead of myself. There's a good chance Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh have zero interest whatsoever to come to the Browns with the ownership we have, the reputation we have, and the shit show we've built here in Cleveland. But to say we're the ones that should be declining these guys who are, potential Hall of Fame coaches, both of them in their own right, I just cannot understand it for a second. But there is a portion of you Browns fans out there that are arguing it. And it boggles my mind, but that's what I have to say. I would probably trade draft capital to get both of these guys in Cleveland, and I think both of them are culture changers, expectation setters. They're not going to let these players get away with things that some Browns players are getting away with right now, and some of the play we've seen over the past 25 years. Like, these are coaches that are just way too respected in the league and know what they're doing, have been doing it for years and years. And I think that's exactly what this team needs and what this organization needs, with the meddling owner that we have and all the complications that stem from that. I think having a coach who would be able to put their foot down to the Haslams is just, the value of that is almost as valuable as anything else for that you could really get and add to this football team. So, you guys are entitled to have your opinion. I'm entitled to have mine. That's the way I view the situation. I, in a heartbeat, would take either of these guys over our current coaching staff. And I hope that a lot of you would agree with me, but who knows? Now I want to shift into the last talking point before we kind of talk about the Titans game coming up this weekend. And it is about the whole Wyatt Teller situation and kind of what has turned into, I believe, more of a talking point than it really should be in the Cleveland media and kind of amongst Browns fans. So we found out that Wyatt Teller was intentionally being split reps against the 49ers with Tevin Jenkins, who we picked up this past offseason and never really got a chance to play until recently. And there was a whole widespread reaction to this. I heard a lot of theories about this situation and kind of what it could mean and why we're doing this. And I think for Browns fans who are not paying attention to all the little details about this football team, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because you think Wyatt Teller, you think however many-time Pro Bowler, one of the better guards in the league, a guy who has had a ton of success, one of the best run blockers in the league, a damn good pass blocker too, just an all-around really good guard in the NFL. But over the past 2 seasons, Wyatt Teller has legitimately been one of, and this is not me coming to this conclusion, I'm going to give you some numbers to back this up, but he's been one of the lower ranking guards across the NFL over the past couple seasons. And so if we look at this season, Wyatt he is ranked 65th according to PFF amongst all qualifying offensive guards overall. So this is an overall grade of 60.4. So obviously, if you think about it, each team's playing 2 guards. So ranking 65th is quite low, and as you kind of look at that situation. Then if you go even further down, he's been horrible at pass blocking. He's ranked 85th in pass blocking with a grade of 51.8. These are really pretty brutal PFF grades, and I get it, PFF isn't everything, but they really do a good job with grading offensive linemen at a, which is a thing that is not easy to do, and a lot of people aren't super familiar with how to grade these guys, so it's one of the better ways to get a good look into how guys are at least performing, at a baseline level in the NFL, and at least get an idea of how things are going. So that said, yeah, it's been pretty ugly for Wyatt all season long, and it was ugly last year too. He did have some back injuries last year, and he was dealing with that, and it's probably still there this year. But there is no deeper meaning behind this situation. It makes perfect sense. Wyatt Teller has been severely underperforming. He's a guy who is not under contract next season. And at this point in time, why would the Browns be interested in re-signing this guy who, has been underperforming for a couple years now? And additionally, there's a good chance he's going to demand a pretty hefty contract just based on the fact that he has had some real success in this league and been really good at times. But, for the Browns who would be signing him, you're kind of taking the risk that he is ever able to get back to that point. And there's a really good chance that for a guy who, how old is Bitonio? I mean, he's in his 30s, I think. Or not Bitonio. He's 31 years old, so I mean, that's not crazy old for a guard, but it's getting to the back half of his career for sure. There's a chance he just never gets back to the condition and level that he was playing at whenever he was in his 20s. So to me, it makes perfect sense. Let's bring in this guy, Tevin Jenkins, who was an addition this past offseason, and a lot of people had said that he has the ceiling to be a good guard in the NFL, but he does kind of have that lower floor, and he's been traditionally pretty bad at pass blocking, although a pretty good run blocker. So why not give Tevin Jenkins an opportunity to kind of maybe naturally take this position from Wyatt Teller and, give Wyatt Teller the opportunity next season to test free agency and able to make that decision, or in order to make that decision, the Browns have to get a look at Tevin Jenkins. So to me, that's what's going on here. They want to see what they have in Tevin, and they believe that it's time to move off Wyatt Teller. I get it. It's a guy who's been for the Browns for years. We all love Wyatt. He's a great guy, and has been a fantastic player for this team, ranging way back to the Baker, Chubb, Odell days that we all love as Browns fans. So I think we all have a really good feeling whenever we think about Wyatt Teller, and I think we're all thankful for the time he's played in Cleveland, but sometimes it doesn't work out, and maybe he's able to rejuvenate his career in a different location. That would be fantastic for him, but I don't see a real future for him in Cleveland as a guard for this team moving forward. And that's really as simple as it is, in my opinion, in my eyes. As I look at this situation that's going on with Wyatt. And yeah, I think they're going to continue to do that. He's not playing next week. Makes sense to me. I'm not going to have any crazy conspiracy that the team is trying to sabotage Wyatt or whatever the conspiracies were. There were some odd ones out there that I was hearing, and I don't know. I'm not going to get into all that, but to me, it's a pretty simple situation going on there. So now, honestly, let's move right into the Titans game coming up this weekend. The Browns are facing off the 1-9 facing off against the 1-9, or no, 1-10 now, I believe. Honestly, they might be 1-11. I think the Titans are 1-11 actually. Yeah. Yep. Titans are 1-11. So that's the worst record in the NFL. Obviously, the Browns are favored in this one. It's a really bad Titans team coming in here. It'll be fun to see Cam Ward play, particularly where in a game where he's playing against another rookie who, these are two guys who seemed pretty close in the whole draft process. So I think both of them will have some extra motivation with that going on, and hopefully they're both able to play well in this game. But I think, I want to dive in on the fact that Cam Ward has taken 48 sacks this season. That ranks number 1 across the entire NFL. So he's taken the most sacks. It's a bad offensive line. Naturally, Cam Ward holds on to the ball long too, so that's not a good recipe, and it's kind of resulted in the fact that the Titans have taken a ton of sacks as a team. And it couldn't come at a better time for this Browns team, who has a guy in Myles Garrett with 19 sacks, looking to break already has broken the Browns single season record, but now looking to break the NFL single season record. And he needs 4 more sacks to do so. He's gotten 4 sacks in a game 2 times this season. So, definitely a chance that Myles potentially could not only break the single season sack record, but he could do it in this game. And I think that's one of if not the most interesting thing to watch in this game coming up this Sunday. And that, along with the 2 rookie quarterbacks battling it out, I think makes for a pretty as interesting of a game between a 3-9 and a 1-11 NFL team in early December as it could be. So, yeah, I think those are really the main talking points for this one. The Browns should win this game. The defense should dominate. I don't think the Titans... I wonder how many times they've scored over 20 points this season. I'm not going to be able to find that out right now, but if somebody knows the answer to that, I bet you it's like maybe 2. I think the Browns defense could hold them to like 10 points Sunday. So, it could be an ugly game, but also I'm not putting anything past this Browns team. They could lose this one. Like, who knows? Maybe Cam Ward has his breakout game and throws for 3 touchdowns and a whole bunch of yards and we lose. Like, that could happen too. I wouldn't be surprised with either one of those outcomes. That said, my prediction for this one is that the Browns win it. I'm going to go with the score of 27-17. 27-17 Browns win this one. I think the Browns defense will force a couple turnovers, maybe a couple picks, maybe a pick and a fumble, who knows. I think there'll be some short field positions for that Browns offense. I think they'll be able to capitalize and look average in this one, at least score 27 points. Shedeur will have a pretty good game. I think he'll throw a couple touchdowns, 200 yards. Look more like he did in that Raiders game for sure than he did in the 49ers one. And I think, it's a great opportunity for him. Like I said earlier, it's an opportunity for him to show what he can do and hopefully kind of, as I've touched on in previous podcasts, get the training wheels taken off of the offense for him, and really show what he's capable of doing, maybe a little bit more, making some pre-snap reads, audibles, checking into plays, doing things like that, at the line of scrimmage. Because if you can't do that, then you really can't be an NFL quarterback. And I think it's a great opportunity this week against a bad football team to start to lean into that with Shedeur a little bit for Kevin and that offensive coaching staff. But yeah, let me know what you guys think the outcome of this one will be. Browns should be winning this game. Very, very winnable game. Obviously, every game is losable for this team as well, but they'll be favored. It'll be at home. I'm actually headed to this one. Tickets are very affordable right now, so if you're looking for something to do on a Sunday, that I believe is going to be like 30 degrees. So it's not going to be warm out by any means, but if you're looking for something to do, there's cheap tickets out there. You can get down pretty close to the field for definitely an affordable price. So yeah, I'll have kind of that first person view for you guys to report. Sorry, there's a noise going on up above me that I was hearing. I wasn't sure if you guys could pick it up on the mic there, but all that said, enjoy the game this weekend, guys. Enjoy all the college football. A ton of great games to talk about. Super excited for those. I think we'll have a really good idea, like I said, literally by Monday, as to kind of a better outlook on how the Browns are probably going to, address the 2026 draft and kind of where some of those, a better idea of where those chips are going to fall, in their final spots for the draft coming up next April. Anyway, enjoy the game. Enjoy the college games. Have a great weekend. I'll be back for a post game, probably a little later since I'm headed out to the game this Sunday. Should be probably around 7:00. So keep an eye out for that. And that's all I have for you guys in today's podcast. Go Browns, and I'll see you in the next pod. Take care.